In this video, we're going to talk about Arbiter of Worlds by Alexander Macris. So let's get into this.
Welcome to Solitary RPG.
In this video, we're going to talk about my key takeaways from reading Arbiter of Worlds by Alexander Macris, not to be confused with Justin Alexander, who recently released So You Want to Be a Game Master. This is a tome of well over 500 pages, and I'm slowly making my way through this book. But for this video, we're just going to talk about Arbiter of Worlds and why I am starting to read books on being a game master. Moving forward in 2024, I want to start playing my games from the viewpoint of the game master. One of the things that I enjoy is reading rules, understanding those rules, setting up situations or adventures, and then running characters through them. But I want to do everything from the game master's side versus the player character side. So I've been reading books on how to be a game master and reading game master guides and things like that. I learned about this book from Roleplay Rescue, where Jay interviewed the author, and I really liked what the author had to say, so I picked up his book. This isn't a long read. It's about 153 pages. I picked it up on Amazon. It was released in 2019. This book has a heavy emphasis on creating a world and running characters through that world. However, sprinkled throughout this book is a lot of game master advice that I really took to heart, and that is why I enjoyed reading it. The first thing I want to share is the author's viewpoints on rule light systems. And the heading for this is Rule light games are just games that haven't been played a lot yet. And what I took away from this and what the author's sharing is rule light systems are just games that haven't been played a lot, so you haven't made a lot of rulings with those systems. And as you play the game and as you're a good game master, you start making rulings, and those rulings kind of become house rules. And what you're doing every time you make a ruling during a game is you're adding a layer of complexity, or you're adding complexity to that rule light system. So a game like Pathfinder that has a really crunchy rule set that almost everything is detailed out is just a system that's been played a lot, and a lot of those rulings have already been decided through mechanics in the game. It was just eye-opening for me, and I just enjoyed reading it, and it just kind of helped me better understand why I'm attracted to rule light systems and not so much to heavier systems, because I like to add things that I enjoy and I don't want the rule system to decide those things for me. The other chapter that I really liked reading, that I'm still trying to get a better understanding on how to incorporate this into my games, is chapter 9, Worlds in Motion. What I took away from this after reading it was when your PCs are doing something in the game that can have an effect on the world, and those things that they do that affect the world can come back later in the game, kind of like threads in using the Mythic GM emulator, where something happens and your PCs are just going about their adventure, doing their thing, and either there's a scene that's set up where there's something small in the scene and you just put it out there as a thread, and then later on it comes back. So what it's really helping me understand is the world is also a playing character, and you want to make sure that you're treating the world as such, so that way you can kind of get more immersed into it, and it's just not a generic backdrop. And I like what the author's talking about. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to incorporate this into games. And the author does give some different examples with triggers and different tools to use to put the world in motion. I just kind of need to figure out how I'm going to incorporate that into the games that I'm playing. But I really did enjoy reading it, and I like this phrasing worlds in motion because it's really taking the context of the world and bringing it to life and making it moving in the background. Even though your playing characters might be someplace else doing something else, maybe something they did prior can come back and affect them where they are now. I like this idea, this concept, and this phrasing that the author used here. Throughout the book, there's a lot of really basic game mastering advice that I read in a lot of the game master guides and other publications, but scheduling games for success. One of the things that I want to do moving forward is scheduling my games. I know that may seem kind of odd for a solo gamer. You just play when you want to play. However, as a person, I have my own struggles in life, and sometimes my mind just isn't in the right place to play a game. And I feel that if I'm scheduling my games just like it was a regular commitment with a group, I can better prepare myself and get myself in the right state of mind to play the game. Just like everybody else, real life kind of interferes with my day to day activities. My mind gets kind of stuck in some negative feedback loops, or I'm just upset about something that may have happened, or I'm just not 100% focused. I'm just not present when I'm playing the game. And I'm hoping that maybe by scheduling my games, I can get myself in the mindset that I know I have a game coming up and I can start clearing my head and get myself in the right mindset to play my game. One of the other books that I've read in the past is Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. I've talked about this before on the channel about Stoic philosophy. This book is really shared in a lot of philosophies about emptying your mind of thought and clearing your head so that you can be more focused on the task at hand. And that is something I'm hoping scheduling my games will do for me. So that way, if I'm scheduled my games for Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock, then on Thursday, I can start preparing ahead of time, kind of clearing my head, getting like negative thoughts out and getting myself still. So that way, when I play my game, I am more present in the moment and enjoying the time that I have with my game. Also, if you kind of can clear your head out of distractions and things that are taking you away from your enjoyment, you'll get a lot more focused. And when you're focused more, you can kind of open up your creativity and you can be more responsive to your roles on tables and charts and kind of just have more of that creativity when you're playing your games. I've had many moments in my life where I was writing and I was just really focused on what I was writing and I just kept going and going and going because I was in the moment. I was present. And that's where I'm hoping scheduling my games will help me moving forward. Also, I want to start scheduling some time for game master prep. So I want to play my games, but then after my games, maybe a day or two later, I want to take some time to start prepping for my next session, getting any information logged and charted and kind of writing out some more detailed information about maybe an NPC we encountered, just kind of adding more to the story and not so much flying by the seat of my pants. I want to have a little bit more structure into my games. And again, going back to that world in motion, trying to have things going on in the world, kind of playing like a secondary game about, the PCs got into a bar fight. Well, how did that affect the world? Who was it they attacked and or got into the fight with, and how does that come back later? What kind of trouble does that cause? So that's why I want to start scheduling my games, and hopefully that will really help me with getting more present when I'm playing so that I can be a lot more creative with my game sessions. Appendix A, the author goes into a lot of conversation regarding alignment. Many of the games I play, they don't use alignment as a mechanic, But after reading this chapter, I'm going to start incorporating a form of alignment in my games moving forward. The author gives a lot of different examples about how to use alignment differently. And the one example that I'll probably be pulling out of this book is using alignment as more of an attitude or an allegiance to something other than themselves. And I just think it's going to help with role playing, especially if I'm coming at my games from the GM seat. I can actually lean into that a little bit more and use that for rolling to see how the playing characters will respond to situations based on their allegiance to one another or their allegiance to something more than themselves, such as a king or a religious code, or they could just have a general attitude. Maybe they're just kind of bullies and they just kind of have a negative outlook on life. And I can lean into that. It's not necessarily alignment as it's shared in like Dungeons and Dragons, but it is a tool that you can use in helping roleplay your PCs, especially if you're playing a party of more than one character. When you're playing one character, you can kind of lean on your own personal traits to play that character out. But sometimes when you're playing more than one character, it can get kind of hard. And this could just be a good tool to help create some of that behavior for the characters. And I just really liked what the author was sharing here. And I just want to lean into that a little bit more moving forward in my game sessions. So it was just good information. The last point I want to talk about is this chapter. It's not your job to make sure people have fun. The author's obviously talking about this for group games where you have other people at the table, but for solo games, it's something that we should also be looking at. That it is our job to make sure we're having fun while we're playing our games. And the author goes into it in a little bit more detail. But I've had plenty of sessions where I've sat down and started playing my game and things just weren't working for me. Either my dice rolls weren't working for me, created some really weird situations, and I just couldn't come up with good ideas at the time, or maybe I didn't understand the rules for the game system that I was playing clearly enough, and those rules were causing me some frustrations. And once I'm not having fun playing a game, I'll just pack it up. I'll just put it to the side. I might not even look at it for a couple weeks and then go back to it with fresh eyes and reapproach the game a second time to make sure I have a better understanding of myself, why I wasn't having fun playing that game so that I can try to make it more enjoyable. I'll be first to admit there's some games that I thought would be a lot of fun. Started playing them and they just weren't fun. Something wasn't working for me. So I just put those games to the side. It's going to happen. Not everything is going to run smoothly with a solo game. And sometimes you just need to be honest with yourself and realize what you're doing isn't working and change it or discard it and do something else. I do get a sense that game masters feel that it's their job or their responsibility to make sure everybody's having fun and that everybody's engaging with the game. And it's some people just aren't going to do it. Maybe something happened on their way to the game or they got some personal conflicts that are causing them some distraction and they're just not 100% into it. And sometimes the individuals have to have responsibility or agency for themselves in a gaming session to ensure that they're having fun. Just like what the author was saying here, and I think it was some really important information that others could really learn from. But yeah, that's just some key points I took away from this book. There's a lot more information in this book that is very helpful for being a good GM and world building and running games. And I really enjoyed reading it and hope you enjoyed this video. So thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.